Hello my lovelies, welcome to my little cottage by the sea, the place where I love to stitch and craft my way to a vintage inspired and sustainable lifestyle. I've been having a lovely time sewing recently at a very leisurely pace, and in this video I want to share my recent makes with you. The first dress that I want to share is what Mildred is wearing so beautifully. It's a little bit dingy over there in that corner of the studio. It's been a rather windswept and grey Hastings Old Town of late, and I have to say I'm very much looking forward to spring. But I shared this video, it was my last YouTube video, and I just had such a great time making the Bella dress. The idea for this dress was that Bella Baxter from the film Poor Things, which I absolutely loved, the idea was that Bella Baxter meets the vampire's wife. So I used my vampire's wife self-drafted pattern, and then I pattern cut these leg of mutton sleeves. They're not the most extreme 1890-ish type sleeve, but I also did a free tutorial for those over on my Patreon. So if you're a member and you've just signed up for free over there, you can watch that tutorial. The fabric is a really beautiful Devore organza that was given to me many years ago by somebody, I can't even remember who. The lining is also vintage and it's a blush pink fabric, really pretty, that my lovely Hula Hannah gave to me a little while ago, and I think I probably would have shared that particular fabric in some kind of fabric haul at some point. This dress has just got all the drama and the glamour and the whimsy that I really wanted with it. And I am absolutely thrilled with my Bella Baxter meets the Vampire's Wife dress. And it's one of my favourite recent makes. I think that's the great thing about your fit and flare dress, which the Vampire's Wife is a kind of, that it's really versatile, and all you need to do is just change up the sleeves, maybe put a frill around the neckline, loving frills right now, and change the type of skirt that you put onto the bodice, and you've just got so many options. And I have really come to the conclusion that I'm a dress person, and this recent makes video is basically full of dresses. The next few makes are all Patreon projects, and these days I seem to be doing more and more self-drafting and designing clothes, or taking inspiration, recreating vintage dresses that I see, rather than using commercial patterns. But do keep posted, because I'm currently working on my spring sewing plans, and I am thinking about a couple of commercial patterns that I'd like to sew. Over on my Patreon at Tara's Stitch Coven, I teach my really fabulous students how to pattern, cut and sew their dream wardrobe, all using their own bespoke measurements. So if that sounds like something that you would like to get involved with, whatever your level of sewing or pattern drafting experience, we'd really love to welcome you to our community. And there's also a lot of fashion history and culture there, and just generally, you know, the stuff that I do in my little cottage by the sea. I'm a massive fan of Blondie, one of my favourite bands, and Debbie Harry, such an icon. And I found this picture of her wearing this 1930s dress, crepe dress, and I decided to recreate it, the Harry shirt dress. So this is made in this really beautiful crepe that my lovely Hula Hannah, who, if you don't know, Hannah is one of my dear friends, and she used to live here but now she lives in Birmingham. She's got a wonderful sustainable fashion brand called Hula Hannah, which is why I call her, well, it's called Hula Han, and I call her Hula Hannah because her name's Hannah and she's got the brand Hula Han. I'm nothing if not original. And she lives near the rag market, so when she's going fabric shopping she tends to pick things up for me, which is very, very wonderful of her. So she got this from there, so I don't know any more details about it. And I recreated this sort of collar with rouleau, so we were looking at rouleau and how to use it decoratively, and I did this rather messy interpretation of the collar. I'd like to take another run at this actually and refine the technique and make it really, really beautiful. But actually I wore this out to my friend's daughter's 18th birthday, and I absolutely loved wearing this dress. Another little detail on it, which I hope you can see, I'll try and get some footage of, is this really lovely smocking. Instead of pleats or darts here, I've just done rows and rows of gathering stitches and then gathered that up, and it's got a side zip and just a couple of little pleats on the back, but it looks very vintage. It's as close a replica as I can possibly make, and I just really love this dress. I do, however, want to look out for some really lovely vintage buttons. The buttons on the original dress were really fabulous, and I didn't have any the right colour in my button stash, so I'm on the lookout for some buttons that would go with this dress, just to make it perfect. But I'm going to be wearing this a lot. I've actually already worn it more times than I care to remember, and it's still clean. Amazing. I'm interrupting this scheduled broadcast just to say very quickly that I really appreciate all your support by following along and liking videos and commenting. It really does mean the world to me, and I just love sharing my sewing adventures with you. If you'd like to see more, however, then do pop over to my Instagram, because I update that most days, and you can keep up to date with the sort of daily shenanigans in my little cottage by the sea. And also sign up to my newsletter on my website. I'm just in the process of rejudging, spring cleaning, making my website look far more bougie, and I've been quite lax at sending out a newsletter, but do join that newsletter community, because you'll be the first to know about stuff that is going on, should you wish to be the first to know. Anyway, back to my recent makes. I'll try to remember to link any useful videos that might be helpful for you, and also any resources, anything that is relevant, in the description box below. So if you want to go and find out more, you are more than welcome to. I really have found, now that I'm not doing commissions anymore and I'm just sewing for my stitch coven and sewing for myself and products that I'm developing and adding to my very small collection of sewing and knitting patterns, that sewing has become much more pleasurable. And I also wanted to feel really snugly, cozy and comfortable in my little cottage by the sea in the winter. Now, I don't wear tracksuits, and I have made a few loungewear bits and pieces, but even they're not quite what I was looking for. So I was wondering about making something that would be still sort of vintage inspired, still the kind of aesthetic that makes me feel happy when I'm wearing it, but also would do that kind of secret pajamas, something that you could just throw on really easily at the start of the day, put your hair up, put some lippy on, and you still feel good, but actually you're really comfortable and can just lay on the sofa and watch, you know, Bram Stoker's Dracula, should you wish to. So I came up with this dress. In January, we were looking at Peggy Guggenheim, the great art patron and collector, and I designed this dress based off of 1940s dresses that I saw, called the Peggy. It's this wraparound style, although actually it's sewn into the seam. It's not really got much hanger va-va-voom, to be honest, but it's a dolman sleeve, grown on sleeve. I designed it so that you can do this in a woven fabric, and I experimented with a jersey. Now, this is a really beautiful jersey that I got from Jacob's Haberdashery. It's organic, ochre tech, whatever that thing is. Really lovely, sort of thick. It's not a Ponte Roma, it's still just a jersey, and it's covered in Ghost's floof, and it's just got this gathered skirt, although I leave that centre bit ungathered. It's a very late 40s way of using just one width of your fabric, and then you gather it, but you leave the centre of the skirt panel flat, and it gives you this really lovely tulipy sort of 40s shape. It's really lovely, really comfortable, and this just did absolutely the thing. It was just the ticket, as my dear old granddad used to say, really comfortable, really easy to wear, yet still feel put together and glam. I'm actually really looking forward to doing a short dolman sleeve version of this in a woven fabric for spring summer, and obviously I'd have to put a zip into that. But this was a really enjoyable project, and actually one of my lovely evening class students, who's also one of my lovely patrons, she's in the process of making a really lovely version of this at the moment, and it's a real winner chicken dinner, as my dear old granddad also used to say. Now, where I've been able to relax, I would have thought that I would end up doing quite complicated pattern cutting and sewing projects, whether they're for YouTube or my stitch coven on Patreon or just in general. But actually I've just sort of decided to go really simple on the whole, and this next project was one that is also a Tara Stitch Coven Patreon project, because when I was looking back, when I'm planning, I sort of have an idea of what I'm doing for the next few months, but sometimes an idea appears and you've just got to go. When creativity and inspiration strikes, you've really got to just run with it. And I realised that we haven't done many skirts. It's been very blouse, mainly dress heavy. Generally I do make dresses, that's my preference, but I also have got lots of blouses that I really love, and I've been making circle skirts and pencil skirts and then some trousers, but I'm really not loving the trousers, not feeling the trousers right now. And I love a dirndl skirt, just a gathered skirt, you know, gathered like this. More on this, una momento. And I started to think, well, you know, gathered skirts just don't work on me as a skirt. When they're attached to a fitted bodice, it does something slightly different to the silhouette, and I just don't always want to make a circle skirt. And you know, what could I do? So anyway, I've been watching the fashion shows, and I absolutely loved the Maison Margiela artisanal couture show at the end of January. It just really inspired me, and a lot of the very beautiful, very full skirts. But anyway, and then I remembered that I'd made a skirt many years ago that I really loved and I no longer had, and I'd like to remake it. And then I thought it would go really well with all the blouses, and so I made this skirt, which looks fairly unremarkable on the screen. It's a black needle cord. It's very, oh look, light shining. This should be the thumbnail really, shouldn't it? It's basically just your skirt block, which I've shown my students how to create a yoke. And what the yoke does is it kind of fits to the body, and then you do the dirndl bit onto the bottom of the yoke, which gives you that same very full effect, but you get more of a sleek silhouette. And it sort of works for me because I'm, you know, slightly more plumptious and tummylicious these days, and it sort of fills that gap in my wardrobe, because you know, sometimes you don't want to wear a circle skirt. You want a little bit of variety, don't you? So this is the Gwendolyn skirt, and it's just the needle cord that I got from Jacob's Haberdashery, and the yoke is lined with this fabric. It's a Pyjama cotton, I think, that I also got from Jacob's, and I made a really lovely blouse in it. I've put a waistband on mine, which I've used horsehair in, and I've used my couture method of waistband application construction, which I have shown my patrons quite a long time ago now. And it's quite a long skirt. I haven't put pockets in this, but you can put pockets in it. I've got my zip on the side, but you can do it so that you have a zip down the centre back. And I have to say that I have worn this since I made this, and I only made it about a week and a bit ago. But it just goes with everything. It's just been a real wardrobe hero, and I cannot wait to make more of these. So the Gwendolyn skirt has 10 vampire's kisses from me. Doesn't look that sexy on screen, but it's a real winner. And finally, and possibly the thing that I am the most pleased with, is what I am wearing right now. So when I watched the Maison Margiela couture show, it reminded me of Martin Margiela, the original designer of that label, and how influential, how much he was present when I was studying fashion in the 90s. He was always in the magazines and, you know, on the radar, and there's a brilliant documentary about him on Disney Plus at the moment. So I rewatched that, and it really struck me the idea that he had of this deconstruct to reconstruct. The early 90s he did all these collections where he just went round and bought vintage pieces that were wounded birds, and then he took them apart and then remade them into his collections. And it just got me thinking that ages and ages ago I said about Project Patchwork and the sort of using up all of my Liberty fabrics and vintage fabrics, bits and pieces that I've been holding on to for many years but not really got round to using. And it really lit a fire in my creative centre of my brain, and realising that when I'm looking at my wardrobe, I'm really wearing a lot of my fit and flare dresses, my Vampire's Wife style dresses. How could I then use that concept but also this kind of reconstruction from deconstructed clothes? I've got loads of Liberty things that I've made over the years and they don't fit me, or they're just not my style anymore. So I've got a huge resource of these beautiful fabrics and I would like to use them. I've also got lots of lace bits and trims from the Edwardian period up to present day. So the idea of this dress was born, and that also I should say that the label O Pioneers, which does this sort of style dress, very Vampire's Wife style really, they have some sort of patchworky bits and pieces and they use Liberty. So I'm sort of inspired by all of those things. So I pattern cut a princess line bodice from my bodice block, my fitted bodice block, and then I created this sort of these chevrons. So these are inserted lace, sort of like those Edwardian tea dresses but nowhere near as delicate. And I've used this really lovely Pyjama cotton. It's the same company actually that did that lining of the Gwendolyn skirt, and I had made a dirndl skirt out of this, which I shared a very long time ago here, and then I'd also cut a sort of tea dress out of it, but I hadn't finished and I wasn't wearing the skirt. So what I did was I took them apart and I recut all the pieces for this. So I just used the gathered dirndl skirt and put that onto this bodice that I created. I used the sleeves from my Vampire's Wife pattern, which actually needs a little bit of work. They're just ever so slightly too tight. I always do that on sleeves, always do it to myself, I don't know why. And I've done the inset of this lace here. This is a really beautiful broderie on glaze rather than a lace that is probably early 1900s. And then I didn't have quite enough fabric left over, so I've used a little bit of leftover Liberty print, which ties in with the colour of the pink in this Paisley. It's a bonkers dress, I have to say, and it's possibly Marmite for people, but I just really love it. I feel so happy and joyous in this dress, and I just feel like this is exactly where my head is at right now. That may be worrying, it may not be. I really love this concept of Project Patchwork and deconstruct to reconstruct. Is such a sustainable thing to do, and it also means that I've got to be really creative with all these clothes that I'm not wearing, and I can create something really unique and really special and have so much fun making these clothes. So I'm going to be doing quite a lot of this. I'm already unpicking lots of things that I've been finding. There are a lot more of these types of projects on the way, and if you'd like to see how I do this type of effect, then let me know, because I'm very happy to do some kind of content around it. So that is all from me for today. I hope you've enjoyed having a little look at my recent makes. I feel in a way that I haven't made that much, but then actually I really love everything that I have made, and surely that is the point. The amount of time and effort and money that we spend on making our handmade wardrobes really should mean that we're making things to the best of our ability, and also things that are going to fill us with joy, and we can have wonderful adventures when we're wearing. Let me know in the comments below what you think and what you've enjoyed. I know that this particular dress may not be everybody's cup of tea, but it's my cup of tea and I'm the one wearing it. So I know that I'm going to have an amazing time in the weeks to come. Hopefully spring will be springing and I can go gallivanting around Hastings Old Town in my crazy paisley dress. Thank you so much for spending time with me today, my lovelies. I hope that wherever you are in the world, you're keeping safe and well. Until next time, bye.